Jerry, I'm going to kick this off. I'm the one that suggested we put this on the agenda. Everybody needs to understand I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but it's my opinion that we need new blood at the park as far as our employees. I think the two individuals that have been there with us for a long time, I appreciate what they've done, but I think we need some new energy. And what I mean by that is I'd like to see somebody down there that have some skills and some ownership to be able to do things down there and see things that need to be done without being told, other than cutting grass. And along with that, I have a concern, and I'll share a couple of examples that kind of fit this. One is, I understand that we had the contract to remove leaves at $670 some odd to make leaves disappear that we've never done. And to me, that's totally unacceptable. We have 3 employees down there. Unless the trees produce more leaves than usual, I find that unacceptable at that cost. That's the sort of thing that I think some new energy would correct. Another thing, the benches, the fabricated benches that were supposedly installed didn't get done. I think somebody that had some ownership and a little more energy could have done that, and it wouldn't have been an issue. I think we need to have people that take some ownership in the maintenance and care of the machinery. That inventory is creeping up all the time. And that's kind of, for instance, okay, we talked about the so-called cedar tree beside the tennis court. To me, the park employees should have the capability of putting that on the ground. It's not a big deal. And having the highway department remove it. Jerry, you and I did this 5 spruce trees at the over by the building. You and I cut them down. The highway department made them go away, and it worked. And so that's the sort of thing that I'm concerned with. I'm done.
Done. Okay, first off, on the leaves, we have done that in the past. And what happened this year was it kind of got piled up on that one weekend, and they got wet, and they stayed wet. And you can't pick them up with the bagger. Last year and the year before, excuse me, we managed to work it as the season went, and we got them with the bagger. But 3 years ago, we had Scotty come down because we had so many that did the same thing. They all basically fell on the one weekend, and they blew up into that fence. And the only other way to do that is to rake them onto a tarp and then try and drag them across the park. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So basically, if we get the right weather, we can take care of it. There's not an issue there. We have 2 machines with baggers, and they work well. As far as trees and stuff like that go, I got to tell you that the boys have done a good job down there. They've been there 12 or 14 years. Excuse me. We're not getting any younger. It is an issue to talk about, is new blood, younger people. Excuse me, that got a little more power, should I say. But these 2 guys have done a great job. But I can leave them there, and things will get done. In the future, I think that's why we're having this conversation. I know it is. Where do we go from here? How do we handle the little things like the trees and this and that? It's not something that part-timers who this year didn't work only half what they usually work, necessarily have extra time. But if we can set on what we were 2 years ago and before that, roughly 30 hours a week, we can get a lot more of that stuff done. There again, when it comes to putting trees and stuff down, I have to be there. As you and I took them trees down, Tim, you know exactly how we did it. A man in the machine and a man being very careful with the chainsaw. And there's people out there that do that. The boys that work at the park are not lumberjacks. They don't deal with that type of thing every day.
So, Jerry, I'm going to relate a quick circumstance that I encountered. This is in previous reports of mine, of the two staffers trying to deal with a limb that had fallen from one of the trees along the way you come in, where I happened to be checking the park for some other reason to find them struggling with this, and ended up more or less doing the entire task myself, short of them being on the tractor. It seemed like, and because of the lack of a person who is not you, that is an able-bodied individual, they were struggling through a task that was, and doing so in an unsafe way. That circumstance left me kind of dispirited that they were left in the park alone, and they were dealing with a task that was an important task. That limb was a hazard, but if I weren't there, I would not trust that task would have gotten done. And it speaks nothing about who they are. It speaks nothing about their expertise at certain tasks. But for those kind of cleanup tasks, that was the kind of thing that a person who had a slightly different skill set and set of physical capabilities likely would not have needed me to physically be at the park, and likely wouldn't have engaged in that kind of unsafe behavior even though I was there. So
I'll say on that branch that I told them to leave it alone until I got there, and sometimes they slip their mind to remember things that I tell them. So that is extremely dangerous, you're right, and it's totally my fault that I didn't get to it quick enough. As you noticed, that sometimes I'm not getting done what needs to be done because I have other work and stuff to do. And that probably is going to change this year because I'm going to spend more time at the park and cut way back on what I'm doing.
I think
But
that,
you're right, man. There's no need for that. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Nick, you bring up that particular point, and I think that's a good topic to highlight that, as we think and look forward to staffing in 21, is that we should also just look into how to best utilize all of our resources that we already have in town. So, in a situation like that, or in other situations where, could we easily leverage the highway crew for an hour in the morning to work on a task that perhaps they're a little more skilled for versus, some of the other staff at the park. And I think, if I think long term, I see some more shared services there where, if we had a bank of employees, maybe if there's some downtime at the park, they could weed whack you know, somewhere else or something like that at the Yellow Barn. I don't know, just hypothetical here, but just something to think about, and for the board to kind of think about more long term, is how we can maximize our resources that we already have.